Hello everybody, story time again. Last week we had a story about Courtney, that very clever dog. And before that we had the story of the Gruffalo. Silly old thing, don't you know there's no such thing as a Gruffalo? Remember that? Okay, now today we're going to read a story from a little book called The Masterpiece. And you'll find out what a masterpiece is later on. The forest was filled with the fragrance of spring. Sunlight sparkled down on the clearing as Fox unpacked his paintbrushes and set up his easel. Humming a happy tune, Fox put a clean canvas into place. He lined the paints up and carefully opened each one. He placed a bright red cap on his head. Then he picked up his favourite paintbrush. "I want to paint something special," said Fox. "Something sensational. Something spectacular." Fox waved his paintbrush in the air. "I want to paint a masterpiece." "What's a masterpiece?" asked Dove, landing on top of the easel. "A masterpiece," explained Fox, pointing towards the canvas, "is the most beautiful thing you have ever seen." "The most beautiful thing I've ever seen is the sky. Clear, bright blue sky," said Dove, spreading her wings. "Sky," nodded Fox, dripping his brush into the blue paint. "That's a good place to start." Just then, Beaver came ambling up from the river. "What's going on?" she asked. "Fox is painting a masterpiece," explained Dove. "That's right," said Fox, tilting his cap to one side. "I'm going to paint the most beautiful thing you have ever seen." "Water," whistled Beaver through her big front teeth. "Clean, sparkling, splashing water is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "Water," nodded Fox. "Yes, I guess water is beautiful." "Wait a minute," shouted Squirrel, scampering out onto a branch. "Trees! Tall, green, blow in the breeze. Trees are the most beautiful things I've ever seen." Fox dipped his brush into the green and said, "Painting a masterpiece is hard. There's so much to fit in." Bee buzzed around the canvas. "Flowers," he hummed. "Red ones, yellow ones, purple ones, and pink ones. Flowers are the most beautiful things I've ever seen." Fox was rushing from one colour to another when suddenly Mole popped up out of the ground. "Dirt," he mumbled with a mouthful. "Dirt?" cried Fox. "Yes," nodded Mole. "Lumpy, bumpy, gritty, grimy, good to dig in dirt is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Fox dipped his brush into the brown paint. "Mountains," growled Bear, towering above a blackberry bush. "Big, rocky, reach-to-the-sky mountains are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "Sky," cooed Dove. "Water," whistled Beaver. "Trees," shouted Squirrel. "Flowers," buzzed Bee. "Dirt," mumbled Mole. "Mountains," bellowed Bear. all right, cried Fox, throwing his hands up into the air. Just give me a little peace and quiet. I'll let you know when the masterpiece is finished. Dove, beaver, squirrel, bee, mole, and bear all went about their day while Fox stroked lines, brushed shapes, and dabbed bright colours onto the canvas. As the setting sun sent shadows deep into the clearing, Fox put down his brush and wearily stepped back to look at his work. "Well," said Fox with a yawn, "I've put in what everybody else thinks is beautiful. But," Fox scratched his head, "there's still something missing." Rubbing his eyes, Fox lay down under a tall tree. "Something important," he mumbled. Fox pulled his cap down over his eyes and fell fast asleep. He dreamed of bright blue sky, clean sparkling water, tall green blow-in-the-breeze trees, red, yellow, purple and pink flowers, lumpy, bumpy dirt, and rocky reach-to-the-sky mountains. All night, the voices and faces of his forest friends swirled around his head. A shimmering moon lifted above the treetops as Dove flew down to the canvas. Dipping her wing into the paint, she made a few quick strokes, then fluttered off again. One by one, the other animals sneaked up to the canvas and added their artistic touch. As the morning sun came peeping into the clearing, Fox's eyes snapped open. "That's it," he shouted, leaping to his feet. "Now I know what my masterpiece needs. It needs the most beautiful thing of all." Fox ran towards the canvas and slid to a stop. His mouth fell open as he stared at the painting. "Oh my," he gasped. It's magnificent! But who?" "We did," laughed the animals standing behind Fox. Fox spun around to face his forest friends. "Now your painting needs just one more thing," cooed Dove. "My friends are in it already," said Fox. "What else could it possibly need?" "You!" shouted the animals. Smiling, Fox picked up the brush, painted himself into the picture, and stepped back to admire it with his friends. "It's wonderful," whispered Beaver. "It's spectacular," sighed Squirrel. "It's brilliant," buzzed Bee. "It's marvellous," murmured Mole. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," bellowed Bear. "Yes," beamed Fox. "It really is a masterpiece."